Okay, we are glad that you're here today. If you are new to our Thursday 10 o'clock Evangelism Community Meeting, we want to especially welcome you. And we have a clipboard back there where you can give us your email address and we will fill your email box with emails. Actually, we'll send you a weekly reminder of what's cooking, because we have some wonderful people like Joyce and Joel Richardson last week who spoke to us, and Chad is going to speak to us next week. So point of it is, this is a recharging meeting for those people who are committed to do what Jesus did, and that is to seek and to save those who are lost. We thank those who lead us in worship as well. Okay, so you can do that. Today, Joyce Moore, we've known each other for over a decade, maybe a little longer than that. She and her husband are two of my heroes. I say that sincerely. And others here have them as their hero. They retired. They were working professionally over in Johnson County, and they got of age, so they retired. And not to sit back in a lounge chair on the beach, which isn't your nature at all. You'd have to be sick to sit on a lounge chair on the beach. They up and emptied their retirement funds, went to Thailand, Chiang Mai, and started working with the girls who were in the sex trade industry there. And they've rescued, as the banner says behind you, they've rescued lots of them, saved souls in jails and on the streets. And so I'm just glad that you're here. It's always a blessing. Let me pray for you. Lord, thank you for my sister. Anoint her as she speaks to us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming and for having me again. It's been a couple of years since I spoke over here at this division of IHOP. And I did want to mention that it's important to know that a few statistics about human trafficking, and that I normally don't give these out, but there's 2.5 million globally, and 56% of those are in Asia. And that's where we are. We're in Thailand. We vacationed like 9 different places before we decided where we were going to spend the rest of our lives in full-time Christian service. And we retired at 57. And when we went to Thailand, it was blatant old men walking around with these young girls, just absolutely shameless. And so we rented a big house, and we thought IJM was involved in doing raids. When we were there on vacation, they had a raid, and they had taken 20 girls out, and no place to go. Those girls wound up in a boys' home. So that's what we were going to do, work with them. But then the Thai government shut them down. So here we were with this big house and no girls. So we decided to start taking in girls at risk, teenage girls. We started at 12. And these are girls that were orphaned, that had death certificates of both parents. And then we had girls that were working prostitute daughters, and then girls that had been raped. So we were learning the culture while we had these girls, and it got up to 35 at one time. And we were learning how to raise teenagers again. So that was all in God's timing. And then one day, I found 3 girls in a phone booth downtown, living in the phone booth. One girl was 7 months pregnant. They had HIV, their hair was falling out, they had sores all over them. And so I said to them, would you want to come to our home and see what kind of program we have? Maybe you would want to stay there. And so they did. They came on to our house, and I gave them a bath. And one girl had a wig on. She wouldn't take it off for me. But what had happened was they were kidnapped when they were little and put in the brothels in a locked room with no windows for 2 years and working 10 customers a day. And then they got HIV, so then they kicked them out. Now, they don't remember what village they came from. They don't know anything to do for a living. They're hungry, they're homeless. So they do manage to pick up some Thai guys, gang guys, teenagers, so, very few foreigners, mostly. Even though Thailand is a sex tourism nation, there's lots of foreigners. But they managed to get a bowl of rice now and then, and they share it amongst themselves. So one day when we were downtown, one of the girls said to me, "Would you be interested in boys?" I said, "Yes, I would like some boys." She said, "Like us?" I said, "Yes, like you." So we went down at 10 o'clock at night to the homosexual part of town. There's 5 bars in a row. And around 10 o'clock at night, here comes these young boys out to be sodomized for a bowl of rice. They're in the same situation. They're hungry. They're homeless. And what happens with these boys is we learned to find out that their mothers up in the hill tribes don't practice birth control of any kind. It's common to have 10, 12 kids. And so when they get to where they can't feed them all, and they're like 10 years old, they send them downtown to find jobs. Well, a 10-year-old child can't find jobs, and the mother knows it. The mother is my biggest human trafficker. And through all of Asia, because the children do what the mother says, and to support the mother, to support the siblings. So I said to these boys, then, did you want to come to our location and see about maybe staying with us? So we had a half-a-day Bible study with music and Thai and English. And then we also have jewelry making, which I've got some back there for donation later if you are interested in that. And they seemed, when they got born again, they had this tremendous devotion, dedication that the girls didn't have. We saw change in the girls, but nothing like the boys. But we did realize that it was too difficult to take both genders, sex workers, and try to have them up under the same ministry. So we had to make a decision. We went with the boys. There was nobody taking care of the sex slave boys. And so right now, as of this year, we are totally, we still have the girls at risk up here. And then all that back row of guys are ones we found downtown. Now, we did also get involved in the prisons. And to start out telling you a little bit about that was that once the guys were set up in their programs and the girls go off to school, kindergarten through 12th grade, I was there with nothing to do. And so I said, well, I need to redeem the time. And so I need to get in the prisons. And I called a Baptist Thai pastor and asked him if I could tag along with him. So we went to one of his many prisons. And about 5 minutes before we got to the prison, he said, "Oh, Joyce, by the way, you are preaching the sermon today." So I said, "Oh, okay." Well, I had like devotions that morning, so I was just going to use that. And I told my translator who was with me, "You know this Bible verse, and that's the story we're going to give today." So she said, "Okay." Well, so this was about 200 adult men prison, that were 200 that was in the room. And so after I gave the devotion, then I also had an altar call. Because I grew up with Campus Crusade for Christ in my 20s and Youth for Christ and later. So, I mean, it's a natural thing to do. And so I give this altar call, and then boom, all these hands started popping up all over the place. And I backed up and I thought, oh, I am going to be famous. All these people. And my translator said, yes, yes, we were so excited. And well, come to find out, what had happened was this. The Baptist Thai pastor had been teaching them the Word of God for like 2 or 3 years, but he never told them how to become a Christian, how to receive Christ. Why? Because Asians are afraid of losing face. So if they had an invitation and you didn't raise your hand, that is awkward for them. They're not going to do it. So when I did, they were just waiting for somebody to come and tell them how to receive Christ in a personal way in their heart. So through this simple prayer. And so he started taking me to several different prisons, and I said, listen, you can do this altar call just like I did, just as easy. You don't need me at all these prisons. And I enjoyed going. I mean, it was no problem, but I wanted him to learn how to do this. He would not do this, but he did want to water baptize him. The only prison he let me help him water baptize was the women's adult prison. And so that's how we got started, and then I decided to just break away from him and go independent because I had gotten to know all the prison guards and officers, and they called me the change lady because that's what happened to the inmates when they received Christ. They stopped fighting, they stopped smoking marijuana and gambling and raping each other. There was just this big change that came over all these prisoners. So they called me change lady. Then I got involved with Chiang Mai large men's adult prison, has 5,000 in there. So we have, that room though only holds 100, so they have to take turns every Friday when we disciple them. They have different sets of groups that come in to hear us. So at that particular prison, they gave us an award, and we had to go down to Bangkok to pick it up. And down in Bangkok, they already knew the change lady was coming. And they wanted me to explain to all these Buddhist officials from all over the nation about the change, because they want it in their prisons. Well, how do you do that? How do you explain the Holy Spirit is the one who does it? It's difficult to even explain to an American Christian about the works of the Holy Spirit. More or less a Buddhist. Thailand is 95% Buddhist. So we did the best we could. A Thai woman came up to me. She was a former Secretary of Justice. She wanted to give me this huge house right in the heart of Bangkok and set my program up down there. And I said, no, I can't do that because it's going to take about $50,000 US to set it up with furniture, staff, transportation, food, bedding, furniture. No, it's just an empty house right now. I can't afford to take it on. But you have a dinner, you fundraise, and you let me know when you've got it. She called me a couple months later, wanted to give me the house again. No, she didn't have the setup money. I said, no, I don't want the house. She couldn't believe we were turning down this $1 million house. But that's just the truth. That's just the way it goes. And so on this prison, they had the bird flu going around. And one guy got the bird flu, so they kicked everybody out. It was locked down. And so I said to my Thai pastor, who was just here, I brought him over to High Hop so he could see, it's first time in America, so he could see how important prayer is to American Christians. And, but he had to go back. He was here like 30 days. So we had some tracts, and we had given them all to the guys, and we said, no, we got to be gone for like a whole month, and I don't want you to sit around doing nothing. So you memorize the Bible verses in these tracts, and you practice leading someone to Christ with them. And we did a little role play, my pastor and I, and this is how you do it. So we left. And you've done that before in your churches, probably. Practice, your pastor told you how to do this or that, and you left. And nobody ever does anything, right? I mean, maybe one person. We got back to that prison 30 days later, and those prisoners had led 100 men to Christ. Amen. Amen. This is the place where you go hallelujah, because it was amazing. We were blown away. They're putting us out of a job, is what they were doing. And just before we came here this time, the guards decided to do a survey to all the 5,000 prisoners. Most of them are Buddhists. And one of the questions on the survey was, what is your religion? And 650 checked Christianity. So we had no idea up until that point how many the guys had actually reached. Plus, and just before we came here this time, the guards decided to do a survey to all the 5,000 prisoners. Most of them are Buddhists. And one of the questions on the survey was, what is your religion? And 650 checked Christianity. So we had no idea up until that point how many the guys had actually reached. Plus, we reach about 20 a week, and because our room is so small. But they're getting ready to move the prison to another location. The women's prison downtown is coming to the big men's prison, and they got a brand new one up in the north, and they're going to build a church. It's going to set 400, and it's a Christian church. It's for Christian ministries that come, which I might say is not very many. They let me in. They let Abba House in. I'm a woman. I don't have a Bible college education. I don't speak Thai fluently. I have to use a translator. I mean, what are the odds that I would be the one they would let in? They don't let 18, 20-year career missionaries in who speak Thai fluently, degrees everywhere. No, they can't get their foot in the door. They've come and asked me, how do you do this? I said, well, let me do a letter of recommendation for you. You take it to, I'll tell you who to take it to. Give it to them, maybe they'll let you in with that. No, they cannot get in. Now, God chooses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. There's no doubt about that. So we decided then to have like a little halfway house, because we found out that some of those prisoners, when they get out, they don't have anybody to pick them up. They're abandoned by their families. They'll walk downtown. They'll get involved with sex tourism. If we don't help them, they will wind up with HIV. So we have a Thai woman gave me 3 acres, about 10 minutes from the 3 acres where we are now. And so we put up a bamboo building and with a corrugated tin roof, and it's full now. We have the sex slaves that we pick up from downtown, plus the prison releasee guys, and so we're in need of putting up another one of these buildings. They're not expensive, so probably will be this winter we'll do that, put up another one of those. The point I wanted to say too was, we're soul winners. We're not humanitarians. Now, I know that there's a lot of tragedy in the world, especially lately. All these tornadoes and that dust storm in Arizona, what is that all about? I mean, but earthquakes in Haiti, tsunamis in Thailand, and my husband and David and I worked the tsunami. I mean, we live right there. Shame on us if we don't go down and help them out with some water and temporary housing, but that's not our calling. The Great Commission, in the last chapter in Matthew, the last thing Jesus said was, go ye therefore into all nations and tell them of me. Water baptize them. We water baptize all the prisoners that raise their hand to receive Christ. We have a portable baptismal we take to the villages. We take to the children's homes. We go. Everywhere we go, we take that baptismal. But the point is that the missionaries that I am surrounded by in Chiang Mai, they don't lead but few people to Christ in 20 years. Well, what is that all about anyway? They have said to themselves, this is my estimation, they have said to themselves that if this culture thinks it's wrong to give an altar call or to put somebody on the spot to pray to receive Christ, I'm going to respect that culture. But frankly, I don't think they're taught in seminary how to lead anyone to Christ. And if they are taught, it's just a brief class of 1, maybe 2 hours in 4 years. So that is a sad thing. But so now they get a full-time salary, all these expenses, which we're volunteers ourselves, but they get new SUVs every 2 years. I mean, they feel like they need to be earning that. So what do? They go into humanitarianism. They bring in fresh water to the villages. They put concrete sidewalks from house to house, out toilets everywhere, all kinds of good works. But this is a temporary Band-Aid on an eternal problem. And you you need to get your priorities right when you go into the mission field, be it your neighbor, your coworker, your fellow students. Everyone needs to know what is important and what isn't, and what Jesus told us to do. And so when the missionaries find out that we've got this, we're not just soul winning in the prisons. I was invited to a college which graduated in March, and the woman asked me, if the Thai people asked me to come speak at that graduation dinner of about 100 people. And so I brought YWAM with me. At the time it was Hawaii. This last month I had Idaho. Right now I have Hong Kong. So I get these YWAM teams because I'm interdenominational, and they're the only groups I can get to come visit us to work as a team for a couple of days, 30 days. So they came and did a drama skit. Our guys and girls up here did a song, and then I preached this little message about education, intellectual education, knowledge versus godly wisdom. And then I had an altar call. 15 people came forward out of the Buddhists came forward out of that crowd, and 14 of them were men. One of them was a woman. They were graduate seniors. It's not just the prison. I'm saying that they're a captive audience, I know, but these college graduates weren't a captive audience. So then we had a dinner. While YWAM was setting it, I made them scatter out and sit at different tables with them and not huddle over here by themselves. So one of them said to him, he said that he was both Christian and Buddhist now. He was very happy. Well, what is... No. So what is happening is this emergent spirit of unity that all paths lead to God. And John 14, John 11, Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. He'll say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. He said, I am the way. He did say, I am a way of many ways. So we have made a decision that from now on, when we give altar calls, we're going to have them renounce that Buddhist religion or that New Age religion, whatever it is that they're believing, before they become a Christian, and they're never to refer to that again. Now, I know that a lot of those people aren't going to come as quickly to the altar as they did before, but I don't want them to, if they're not ready to say that. And there is some mainline denominations in my city who has also teaching it's okay to be both Buddhist and Christian from the pulpit. So it is a spreading phenomena, and it's nothing new. It's a demonic doctrine that when I was young, it was unity, and Lee Summit had the headquarters for unity. There's unity churches in both Kansas and Missouri. Emergent is just the same thing, but with a different label. And it's in our Christian colleges, folks. So we need to make sure our loved ones, our friends, understand that God is a jealous God. He said, there be no other God before me. And we need to respect him, respect that word, and get it said loud and clear when we talk to people. Now my time is running out, but I do want to mention that one of the big, you got somebody coming? Oh, okay, good. Youth is very important to us because they're our future, and we need to respect them, because so goes the youth, so goes the nation, so goes the church. And they're being bombarded by everyone about this unity thing, that God is love, that he created hell for the angels, not for his people being created in his image. He would not send anyone to hell like that. And he just loves everybody. So we need to let them know that this is just a wrong teaching, and it's very dangerous. Because God is not just jealous, but he wants the glory, too,
That's right.
for everything. We have to be very respectful to him that he gets the glory.
Amen.
And I am extremely careful about that because I have his favor, and I know it, and everybody else knows it. But if I, for 1 second, thought it was me or my program that was doing these successful evangelistic outreaches, I would be in a heap of trouble with God, because he's the glory guy. And so when we went to Bangkok to receive the award, we made it loud and clear to them that it's not us, that it's the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit working within us. And so we have the prison. What we've got is teams coming over. We've recently built a, you can see that building there in the back. We built 6 of those. 4 of them are finished. And we're saving up now for our own church building. Why? Because walking distance from our front door is a university, sister college to Oklahoma State. They call themselves Cowboys. It's an agricultural college. It has 10,000 Buddhists going to school there, all going to hell if somebody doesn't tell them about Christ. Walking distance from us. Well, this land, I knew, I bought it on purpose because it was walking distance, and it was very expensive, but God just brought somebody out of the blue, some motivational speaker who I don't even know, paid for that land. And so I'm glad that we have what buildings we've got up now. But the girls live on the 2nd floor, and the staff is on the 1st floor with a living room, kitchen. And the other buildings upstairs is a big dorm room for girls and a big dorm room for guys over on the other side. And there's another upstairs room where we have church for now. It'll set 75 people. And we've got it about 3/4 full. But what we want to do is get more YWAM teams coming, or anybody that'll come. It's just my husband and I. We're just retired people. We are not a big-time NGO. We're just ordinary people like you. And so we don't have a home denomination that can send us long-term volunteers or anything. But if you're going to teach English to these Buddhist students, you have to have a routine where it's constant, because if there's a lull time in between trips, in between team trips, then you don't see them again for a while because it's disorganized. So we're working with YWAM to bring us more teams so we can stay constant at teaching English. They will start coming to one of our larger buildings to learn English. They know they need that for an edge to get a job. And then we'll invite we're working with YWAM to bring us more teams so we can stay constant at teaching English. They will start coming to one of our larger buildings to learn English. They know they need that for an edge to get a job. And then we'll invite the college students back on for a Friday night rally. We'll have a dinner, we'll have games, we'll have songs, and then we'll have some testimonies. I kind of changed the testimonies from the YWAMers because they were so gross. Oh, some of the stories they say about their home life, it was so dysfunctional. I thought, oh, I don't want my people to think that America is like that. But it was really sad. So we had to start saying to the students coming, pick a Bible verse and share it and what it means to you. And that is working out better than their horrible testimonies. It was, a lot of them aren't even saved, too. Not a lot, but a few are coming that aren't even saved. That's with YWAM. So they're not turning anybody down nowadays. They're just going out into the highways and byways and getting people and saying, do you want to go on these evangelistic trips? I don't know if that's good or bad, but that seems to be the picture. So we're adjusting to that. One thing about the mission field, you have to be flexible. Americans seem to be uptight about everything. Has to be organized, it has to be punctual, it has to be this room and not that room, and this way and not that way. And so that reminds me of something real quick. Phil Klein, I don't know how many of you know, he used to be Attorney General here in Kansas. And he's a good friend of mine. He's got a thing called, he likes sports history. And so he was saying to me the other day, he said, Naismith invented basketball at KU. I don't know how many years ago, but they used to use a peach basket that they hung up on a pole. And when they made a shot and the ball stayed in the basket, they would climb up a ladder and throw it back out to everybody. And then later they used the pole, they had another pole that they popped the bottom of the basket and the ball would come out. They didn't have to use a ladder. Now, how many years do you think they did that before they cut the bottom of the basket out? 15 years. We are not flexible. I mean, we have always done it this way with the ladder and the pole, and we are not going to change. Yeah, remember that story when somebody pioneers a new idea about evangelism, because there are so many different ways that you could go about leading people to Christ. But a couple of tips that I found down through the years was, I don't let people ask me a bunch of questions. Because, number one, I don't have the answers to all of them. Even though I've been a Christian 40 years, I still don't have all the answers to them. But it's like a smoke screen, and you don't want to go down that road. You want to get them to pray to receive Christ as soon as you can. And then give them a track and have them study the booklet and the verses when they go home. Because you usually don't have a whole lot of time with them. But when they say that prayer, something happens inside and it changes them. And I've seen it time and time and time again, as well as myself. They don't have any more questions they want to ask you. All of a sudden they have a satisfaction in their heart. And they don't need to. They learn gradually now from that point on. So that argumentative spirit doesn't rise up and cause discord. And you don't need it, so don't even go that way. Now, transition from giving your testimony to your neighbor, to your fellow co-worker, your student friends, is you talk about how God supplied a need, how He's the God of provision or a healing, or something supernatural happened in your life, and you're excited about it, and so you're telling your neighbor. Now, you don't just walk away after you tell them this fantastic, marvelous experience. But that's what we do. Well, have a good day. I'll talk to you later about this. No. As soon as you get done with that, you say, well, how about you? Would you want this kind of God in your life so that you can have miraculous things happen, so that you can have peace, so that you can rest when you're unemployed and need a job? He provides for you. And it's simple. All you need to do is just say this prayer with me. And don't even take a break in between sentences. Because they'll come in there, and what are you laughing at? You know you've been there? Oh, you've been there. Yes, that's right. They'll come in there in those brief moments and start up with a question, but let me explain how God broke my heart the other day. He took my dad, Well, we have a devil out there. He's out there working against nature just as much as God is trying to provide for us. So it's important to know who your enemy is out there and don't get mad at God. But you don't, now that I've already got you going down this road of explaining this and that, and you want them to pray, just say this prayer. And the sooner, the better. And those are just a couple of things that I've learned down through the years to avoid misfortune and to get results. And my husband and I said when we went to Thailand, if we're not effective in our retirement here, we're going to go back home and retire like everybody else and go to Walmart twice a week. And a church? Do something at church, maybe take a cruise to Alaska, whatever seniors do, I don't know. It's been too many I've been almost 9 years in Thailand now. But we needed to be effective in what we're doing. If you're not effective, you need to change something about your strategy, about your focus. YWAM is big time focus. And if the leaders find the students are getting out of focus with all the sex tourism that's going around and they see all that, they get called on the carpet. They're in a fast situation. They're not going to the night market and shop. It's like lockdown at the prisons. And they get their focus back. Now they usually are 3 months in a study program before they're 3 months in the field. So when they arrive, they are focused and they are effective. It's good, though, that if we could be in a focused situation all the time in our daily Christian walk, right here as ordinary, average people. And just looking for that divine appointment Pastor prayed about when everybody goes to the prophetic evangelism at the mall. And just, now they're setting out focus if they're going to the mall. They already know why they're going in this. But I'm just talking about everyday conversation where you look for that opportunity, where you can share something and then have a prayer with them. When the teams come, and I'm saying this in case anybody wanted to come visit us, we have outreaches. So we have from 1 to 4, we have our boys where we do Bible study, and then we have worship and praise in Thai and English, and then we have English. Then we have dinner. Then our girls come home from school, and they need English. But after that, the teams are free to go downtown to the night market. We have a lot of people from all over Europe and Germany who all speak English. They all need Christ in their life. And so they evangelize those while in between having a good time, because we're all about having a good time. I mean, I worked a full-time job for a long time, and I look forward to going on short-term mission trips, but I wanted a little R&R too. So we not only have these different outreaches that we do at the prisons, at the drug rehabs, at the crippled children's homes, at the HIV children's homes, where we come in with a song and a game and testimonies and altar call at every place we go, old people's homes, leprosy homes, disabled, physically handicapped homes for children. And we are free, the university, of course, and then the high schools and grade schools. But we are free in Thailand. They have a freedom of religion just like America, but even more so over there. You can tell the creation story in the public schools. You can tell them about Christmas, what it means, the truth about that. And so, I mean, we can't even do that here. Shame on us, right? So, but yes, over there you can. So we have all these different fun outreaches. and they're effective. I give everybody a turn to give the altar call that wants to. I let everybody that wants to share a Bible verse and what it means to them, they have a right to do that. We go to the drug rehabs for teen girls and for teen boys. And they all love the change there, too, at the drug rehabs. We're known for the change just about everywhere we go. Nobody shuts us out. I mean, all we have to do is fax them a letter, and we get approved within 24 hours, usually. So that's just some of the things you would do. We have an all-day elephant camp where you can wash the elephants in the river and then watch them do the show, and they play basketball and paint with their trunks. Then you ride them for an hour across the river into the jungle, and then take an ox cart back, and then have an all-you-can-eat Thai buffet, which is really good, and then get on a raft and go down the river for an hour on this flat raft, and you can even guide it. There's bungee jumping. We got zip lining down the mountain. That's new. And our teams are off one day a week, and that's where they do. They just take a pick of whatever. We have a thing called Tiger Kingdom. And now I know personally 3 people who have been eaten by the tigers, and they still use the same tigers, but you can lay down with them and get your picture taken with them. And yeah. So and my pastor from one of my pastors from Australia, he brought Ruth, this senior citizen from his church, and she just insisted on going to Tiger Kingdom, and he said, yeah. Well, her entire thigh got ripped off. She was in the hospital for a long time because it got staph infected. They just packed the meat back on the bone and sewed it up. And so I don't recommend Tiger Kingdom if you wanted to come visit us. I'm always looking for long-term volunteers. I have 2 right now, a guy and a girl. And they are like 1-year commitments like that. And but I need more than that because I've got like 50 learning English, and I need more than 2 long-term volunteers. But you would stay with us for free, and then if you know anybody that would want to come to Thailand and stay with us, please pass our email all along to somebody else. I have red flyers back there on the table with the jewelry, and it's got my email address on there. And yeah, it's a free stay for anybody that stays a year. If you stay less than that, it's $3 a day. And 2 long-term volunteers. But you would stay with us for free, and then if you know anybody that would want to come to Thailand and stay with us, please pass our email all along to somebody else. I have red flyers back there on the table with the jewelry, and it's got my email address on there. And yeah, it's a free stay for anybody that stays a year. If you stay less than that, it's $3 a day. And you work from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and it's the mornings you can sleep in from being out late that night, and you fix your own meals. My volunteers have told me down through the years that it costs about $200 a month for transportation, food, and their needs. That's not counting souvenirs or whatever at the night market. It's the 2nd largest market in all of Asia. It's pretty famous for all the things they have down there, fun things to do and see and buy. So did anybody have any questions before we close in prayer?
I just have a question. Okay, so the sex tourism industry seems to be, or seems like it would be a huge part of the opposite Thailand.
Oh, yes.
So how do y'all not run into problems with the government, like over the being shut down, or is it just like your anointing or your ministry? It seems like the government want to shut you down. You're like really hardcore trying to get people off the street.
Yeah.
Joyce, would you repeat
Okay. He wanted to know with sex tourism being so financially prosperous in Thailand and a big part of their economy, that the government would want to shut our efforts down. And they still have a constitution they have to live by, and it is freedom of religion. So that is the number one reason why the government doesn't do something like that. But it did take us 3 years to become a foundation. And normally it takes 6 weeks. So they knew what we were wanting. It was on the paper, on the documentation. And so they give us a hard time. And but then when we started, now that we've been there for several years and we started getting this change reputation, we have their favor now. They ask us if we will come and do this and that at their different Buddhist locations. And the monks do not like it. They're always counteracting us, and they're the ones we have trouble with. And they'll go into this demonic tongue to try to drown us out so people can't hear us. They'll clang on some bells that they have, and yeah, they are worse than the federal government.
Are the Buddhist monasteries involved in the sex trade? Are they participants in any way?
They're not supposed to be. You know, it's a peaceful religion, and it's a love religion too. And they don't believe in God. They believe that man can walk his way up the ladder to be perfect. But they're not supposed to be involved in. They're not even allowed to touch a woman. If the monks touch a woman, then they have to shave all their hair off and go into some kind of cleansing mode for 30 days. So you have to be careful when you travel that you don't touch them. But I do know that they don't help the down and outer because they believe in reincarnation, and their life before is why this person is in the situation they are now. And if you touch them, curse will come on you. So it's a very convenient, mind your own business sort of religion that doesn't help others. And so they don't have these hill tribe people that Christians reach out to that are at risk. But I came across a Buddhist temple about 3 or 4 years ago that had 65 girls in it, in the back in a building. And they were all young teenage girls. And there was 250 Buddhist monks in training in that particular temple. Now what was that all about? So we go in there to talk to the girls. It just stinks like you can't believe inside their living quarters. My husband's taken the head monk that way to go talk to the boys. I go in this way. I got 12 of the 65 girls out of there and in my station wagon and gone before they came back. And then David had another car there and he came on home. When we got him to our house, it wasn't, the stories they shared with us was not a pretty picture. So it was as we suspected. And then the monks said that they were going to sue Abba House if we didn't bring those girls back. And so I said, well, go ahead and sue us, it's fine. And they never did. We never heard from them again. But 2 of our girls was missing. They were supposed to come home from school one day and they didn't. So they found those 2 girls in particular and took them back to the temple. We found that out later from other people. But that's a very unusual situation. I don't think that is the case everywhere. So it just depends on the headman for each temple. And there's one on every block, more so than churches are here in America. It's very strong. Yes? Well, because you're Americans, you can almost travel anywhere in the world and get a 30-day visitor's visa. If you come for longer than that, you have to get a hold of me, and I type up a letter and send you an application form for a 90-day visa where you can stay, and that's renewable. If you want to stay for 1 year or longer, we have what's called a work permit visa. And because we are a foundation, we're allowed to give out 20 of those a year. We're only using 3 right now. And no, it's not difficult. It's time-consuming and a little expensive. We learned how to do it ourselves down through the years, so we've saved financially on the deal on visas.
After the girls are safe and they're away from the grade, what do they do for a living? How do they earn money?
That is the biggest problem. That is the biggest problem. And that is, what do they do after we rescue them? Well, the boys is not so much of a problem because there's lots of trade school for guys. Motorcycle repair, electronics, plumbing, construction. There's all kinds of trade schools that we can send them to at night, as well as hands-on training we do in the afternoons with our guys, because half the day is Bible study. So we just have to keep them busy for a half a day doing other things. And they help build these homes. We get them to a certain stage, and then they can take over. The girls is different. The girls, some of them down south try to do the beauty school trade. But see, the ones I work with cannot read or write. So you have to be able to do that to work. So this jewelry is a way that they can make a living. But and I have one girl out of 9 years that is still doing that on her own and selling jewelry down at the night market. It's still very difficult, but they can make a living if they can get in a domestic house, especially with the missionaries or other Christians, where they can clean and cook and iron and do the laundry and like that. That's an idea for those kind of girls. But they're limited. They're not like the boys. Yes. And there's a lot of awareness in human trafficking, a lot of awareness ministries, but they just go from place to place and talk about the problem. What we do is we rescue them, we shelter them, we home them, we teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, the Bible. That's expensive to house a lot of people and train them with life skill. That's why there's not very many of us like that. But we send out newsletters, like our volunteers send out newsletters for support. The first year, we only got 2 $50 checks, and my husband was in a fit, thinking, how are we ever going to survive this? But God's faithful, and as time goes along, He will bless small beginnings, and more support will start coming in. Well, one more. Yeah, what's that?
The 2 girls who went missing, if you were to have any addition to your ministry, if girls go missing, that's just the way it is and there's no way to fight it the way it is now? Or if you were to all of a sudden have an addition to your ministry to protect the girls that you take, what would that look like? What would that addition look like? Because I assume you never got the girls.
No, I did not, because it's a 95% Buddhist nation. And so, and even though I have favor and respect from the government, there was no way I was going to get those 2 girls back from that Buddhist monk. There's no way. And you just have to realize your limits. Now, I could by faith say that I could, and then just wait for the Holy Spirit to do it. I believe in miracles. But that's what it would take. It's just an absolute, literal miracle to, and even to rescue girls out of brothels is not, IJM is not there anymore. They got kicked out of the nation. So there is some, that they do have an office of a skeleton crew that answers the phone. So they're not totally out of the nation. Somebody will answer the phone if you call them down there, but they have no ministry at all. International Justice Mission. It's Christian lawyers all around the world, and they're very effective. They're an excellent Christian organization, but they've been removed from Thailand.
It's not like you could call somebody
I have lawyers. I've got one guy on staff going to law school right now just to be an Abba House lawyer. I have sent people who have, one of my girls' mother and father and sister was murdered. And I found out about it. That was 12 years ago. That's why she was orphaned. I found out who did it. I went to the police and got an arrest warrant. I got him arrested. We had a trial. He was found guilty. He is in prison now for life in Bangkok. So I do pursue legal avenues, and I do want justice for all these people, but I do understand my limitations. And when girls go missing, there's 2 million people in my city. There's no way I can find them. There's no way that the corrupt police department is going to help me find them. We have 2, maybe 3 Christians on that police department that help us. We had a boy who was, his name's Law, he's 8 years old. He's kind of a new guy. His mother's a working prostitute. Her pimp boyfriend was selling him to pedophiles. When she found out Law had been raped twice, she brought him to me, signed over adoption papers. Before she brought him to me, she went to a Christian police that was on that beat. And so we do have Christian police that are helping us, but there's only like 3 of them. So it's just a Buddhist nation. You do what you can. Yes?
How do you get the girls out of the brothel situation?
You don't, except the HIV will bring them out. But IJM was able, and maybe one other ministry that's not there anymore either, was able to have raids. They went in with hidden cameras. They got the evidence they needed that children were being used. And I do want justice for all these people, but I do understand my limitations. And when girls go missing, there's 2 million people in my city. There's no way I can find them. There's no way that the corrupt police department is going to help me find them. We have 2, maybe 3 Christians on that police department that help us. We had a boy who was, his name's Law, he's 8 years old. He's kind of a new guy. His mother's a working prostitute. Her pimp boyfriend was selling him to pedophiles. When she found out Law had been raped twice, she brought him to me, signed over adoption papers. Before she brought him to me, she went to a Christian police that was on that beat. And so we do have Christian police that are helping us, but there's only like 3 of them. So it's just a Buddhist nation. You do what you can. Yes?
How do you get the girls out of the brothel situation?
You don't, except the HIV will bring them out. But IJM was able, and maybe one other ministry that's not there anymore either, was able to have raids. They went in with hidden cameras. They got the evidence they needed that children were being used in these brothels and gave them to the police. They were forced by these videos to come in and have a raid. But the year we was there, January of 2002, there was a raid. They had 20 girls, I told you before, that had gotten out. They didn't have any place to go. They went to a boys' home. We went back to work with IJM to have a place for the brothel girls to come. That was the last raid they had. They're not going to have any more raids. There is no way you're going to go into those brothels and get those girls out. I know Christian guys who have tried, and they have never been seen again. It's 99% impossible. But with God, there's always that 1% that you can do. How much longer down the questions, Pastor?
We have about 5 or 10 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I hate to be stupid, but would you walk me through, like, suppose you had a group of Christians who were going into what is known to be a brothel to get the girls out. What are we talking about? So they go into the door to take girls out, explain who they are, and, you know, and go. I believe you when you say it's very, very, very difficult. So what's likely to happen?
Okay, I'll tell you a true scenario, a true situation. There was, the Russian mafia is down in Pattaya. We have Asian mafia in Phuket, and Chiang Mai, and Bangkok. Russians don't mess around. There was a tour group of Russian people there just on vacation. Two of the women asked if they could go independent from the tour and walk around and see for themselves and shop for themselves like that. They had been to Thailand before, so they said, yes, you could. The next day, those two girls were on a lounge chair on the beach, and a Thai guy comes up on behind in a motorcycle, gets out, shoots them 9 times in the back, each one dead. Now, what caused that? Those girls walked into the wrong place at the wrong time and saw the wrong thing. And they were not going to leave the nation with any cameras or anything that they could testify about bad publicity, bad tourism for the nation of Thailand. So it's very dangerous. No. Nobody knows who did it. It's like that. But they saw the wrong, they went into a brothel maybe. I had Biola University in California. I had a small team there came, and they wanted to go down to brothels. I take them down, and the girls sit out front in the hot summertime and talk to guys as they drive up and down the street, looking the girls over to see which one they want to buy. And I said, you can go and talk to these girls. They all speak English. And I have a boy girl here on this side of the street. I have a Biola guy girl on this side of the street. I said, you don't go inside the building. My husband and I are going to be waiting right here. I talked to my one brothel that I deal with a lot, and then I went and sat and waited in the car. Next thing I know, there's a knock on the window. So it's one of the Biola guys, the leader. And I said, oh no, what is this all about? So I rolled the window down and I said, what is it? We can't find the 2 girls. That is not what a missionary likes to hear, especially human trafficking ministry. So I said, okay, where was the last time you saw them? So I walked with them and I started talking to the girls. Do you remember seeing American girls anywhere around here? And they said, no. I went to the next building. These are just one brothel building after another, all up and down the street of about 2 miles. So the second building, the girls said, yeah, they're in this one. So I walk in. Now the first floor is totally gutted because of floods all the time. It used to be a bar, but it's just typical brothel now. But upstairs, like in the old saloon days, were the working girls, being held by force, no doubt. Their pimps were all, I walked up the stairs, their pimps were all behind this little alcohol bar. And down at the very end of the hall this way, I saw the 2 girls sitting on a bench talking to a taxi driver. And what had happened was they had to go to the restroom. They were looking for a restroom. But the pimps all speak Thai. None of them speak English. They were shocked when these 2 women came up the stairs. They were shocked when I came up the stairs. What is going on here? They were saying to each other, what are we going to do with these Americans? So they said, come here, sit down next to me. And listen to this taxi guy. He brought customers in that 3rd door. I said, how do you know he's in that 3rd door? She said, because we looked in every one of the bedroom doors for the restroom. So I said, you're going to get up, you're going to walk out with me right now. We're getting in the car, we're going, nobody talk, nobody look, anybody, straight in the eyes, get in the car, let's go. I did not bring them back. I'm not taking any more back. We drive down there so they can see it, but I don't let anybody go person to person and talk anymore with anyone. That was a very serious situation that they got involved in there. We have Americans murdered. I've been to several funerals. People that don't even know who it was that died. You know, there's no ID on them. 20-year-old guys. So they have all these good Christian heart intentions, and they get down in there, and it's a jungle run by mafia. And we aren't. How many times did Paul say in the New Testament, don't be naive, don't be gullible? And this walking by faith business is what I hear a lot about. And yes, there's a lot truth to that, but God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of a sound mind. We need to use that logic when we evangelize, when we do any ministry at all. And I want to mention this too at the end here. I meant to say it in the beginning. People ask David and I, why are we doing our retirement, the rest of our lives, doing this? Why aren't we enjoying ourselves after we worked hard all our lives? And the point is, we were 23 when we got saved. We would not be married today if it wasn't for Christ. We would not know how to parent today if it wasn't for Christ, how to be a good citizen or employer or employee. I mean, we are so appreciative to everything he did for us, and that should be your motive for whatever you do in life, is out of appreciation for all that he's done for you. And then, too, we want to finish well. We don't want to come up to that, finish that race and not cross that line. We want to cross it like we're running the gold at the Olympics. Amen. That's our plan. And that should be your plan. You need a plan. You need a dream. You need a vision. And you need to know that you can, as ordinary people, do every bit of what we've done this past 9 years. And we've got a lot accomplished in a short amount of time. And I think it's because of our age, because we're senior citizens, that God has let us go so fast like this. I don't think it's always the case when you start out in the world mission field. But because our time isn't as long as what maybe somebody else has had, he's graced us with moving along really fast and not with a whole lot of stress and complications. So I appreciate that, and I give him all the glory for everything. So that's it then, Pastor. Did you want to say a prayer for our Abba House? And all that I've shared, too, I don't want it to leave their hearts. And I don't want them concerned and worried and stressed out by some of the stories I shared. I try to stay away from that, and just be on the positive side, the lighter side. Sometimes questions bring those out.
Yeah, gospel light for you is gospel intense for us. Let me just say a couple things, then we will pray. In fact, I'm going to invite people to come up here and pray for her. One of the things she said was there's a lot of ministries who are giving awareness of the sex trafficking industry, and that's wonderful. But like knowing the truth about Jesus, you have to then act upon it, and get saved yourself. Knowing the truth about Jesus then demands that you tell others who are sitting in the shadow of death, headed toward hell, tell them what you know. So it's an awareness unto ministry, a fuller ministry. So I appreciate that. So she gave opportunity for any of you who want to move to the next stage from awareness to activity or action, and that is go over there and help them. I like not having to pioneer everything. I like to come under the shadow of a big oak tree and be safe and bear fruit. Every now and then God calls individuals to be pioneers